From the regular.
Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather today. May everything we do begin with your inspiration and continue with your help. We ask your guidance throughout this meeting, that all our thoughts and actions would reflect your holy will. And bless and and pray you would grant us the grace to love you and our neighbors more perfectly. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. It's great you could join us tonight. Can you hear me? Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Yes? Yeah. I'm not sure. Did I get a yes and a no? Yes. All yeses, okay. Folks, you hear all over the news the term sanctuary city. Sanctuary city this, sanctuary city that. I just want to let you know that our meetings are a sanctuary for all legal gun owners. Now, it doesn't matter if you conceal carry, or if you open carry, you're all welcome. You will not get arrested. It's safe. So please tell your family, tell your friends, bring them to the next meeting. So Berks County Patriots meeting is a sanctuary for legal gun owners. Folks, I want to read you something from the CBO. It's their report for April. Very interesting. April was the best month in history for the U.S. budget, according to CBO figures. The federal government took in a record tax haul in April, its biggest ever monthly budget surplus, as the surging economy left Americans with more money in their paychecks and more to pay Uncle Sam. All told, the government collected $515 billion and spent $297 billion, for a total monthly surplus of $218 billion. That swamped the previous monthly record of $190 billion set in 2001. Folks, can anybody figure out how this surplus could have happened? Can anybody? Anybody?
Tax
cuts. What?
Tax cuts.
Well, basically, folks, yes, you are correct. Donald Trump is our president, and that's why it happened. Hopefully it continues. I want to give a little plug for the Lehigh Valley commentator. Otto Slozer has been coming to our meetings almost on a regular basis. Otto, where are you? Please stand up. For those of you who don't know Otto, he is the chairman of the Lehigh Valley Commentator. It's a quarterly publication. It's free. Not only do the Berks County Patriots advertise in here, but some of you actually write articles that go in here as well. And we encourage others to do the same. If you have something you have an interest in that you want the other people to know, send it to Linda. She'll take a look at it. She'll get it to Otto. There's a lot of interesting stories in here. You'll get a feel for what other people think, so we do encourage you to do that. And we encourage Otto to keep bringing the Lehigh Valley commentators. And tonight, folks, before you leave, please take one with you and share it with a friend. Otto, do you have enough?
Plenty.
Fantastic. Okay, folks, please do that. Sorry, folks, I got to shuffle through too many papers. Okay. Well, the primary is over. I don't know about you, but I'm glad, actually. It went on for a long time. Some of you, your candidate won. That's great. Take a little break and prepare for the next battle. Some of you, your candidate lost. Please, get back in the horse, unite behind your party, and prepare for the main event. The main event is November 6th. So please, whatever happened with the election, make it a point to, let's unite behind your party. In case some of you missed the results, the following are the winners of some of the races that we were following. For U.S. Senate, Lou Barletta. For U.S. Congressional 4th, Republican Dan David, Democrat Madeline Dean. U.S. Congress 6th, Greg McCauley, Democrat Christy Houlihan. For the 7th, Republican Marty Norstein, Democrat Susan Weil. For the U.S. 9th, Republican Dan Muser, Democrat Danny Wolf. Governor, Scott Wagner. Lieutenant Governor, Republican Jeff Bartos, and Democrat John Fetterman. There is one other race, but before I go on, I want to read something. I wasn't planning to do this. I got this brought in from the mother of one of the candidates, and I'd like to have them stand. Carl and Peg, where are you? Please stand. Carl and Peg are the parents of Scott Eulinger. Scott Eulinger was in Berks County, he is from Berks County, spent a lot of time here. He sent a letter in that I would like to read. Dear fellow Berks County Patriots, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who took the time to volunteer in my campaign for the 9th Congressional District. To all who helped collect my 2,500 signatures for the primary, we were able to support my campaign financially, and who manned the polls, you have my deepest appreciation. We had the highest number of votes in Berks County with an overwhelming 5,874. I could have not done this without you all. Unfortunately, I couldn't carry enough votes in Schuylkill, Columbia, and Luzerne. I did not have sufficient funds to purchase TV time on Fox 2-3 times a day for 3 weeks, or to send out 6 to 8 mailers in 4 weeks. The treasury of Mr. Muser was over $700,000, according to FEC reports. To mine, $80,000. I thank you again, and I'm honored to have had your votes and support. Sincerely, Scott Eulinger. I thought that was important to pass on. I mentioned all the races. There is one other race that I want to talk about, and that is the that is for the GOP committee race, where there was 18. There were 18 people running for 9 slots. I just want to talk a little bit about that. First of all, Rod and I ran, and we both lost. That's a little hard to say, but we both lost. That's campaigning. However, there's a few other names I want to mention. One of the people who won, Carol Boyer, she's usually on her meeting, she's not here. She's a fantastic woman. I am so thankful that she won, I really am. I had talked to her before the election that I certainly was not going to be disappointed if she did win, and she did. She is going to make a difference up in Harrisburg. She's currently the vice chair of the Berks GOP. Additionally, another winner was Dean Klopp. Now, I don't know what I can say about Dean that I haven't already said. Dean's a fantastic guy. I'm certainly so thankful that he did win. I call him the George Patton of school property tax elimination. Folks, those people in Harrisburg, when he goes to those meetings, don't know what they're going to be in for. So I'm very, very happy for Dean's victory. One other, and this is an individual who lost. Josh Fiddler. He is the chairman of the Berks YRs. He has done a fantastic job with them. Carol, I see Carol in the back. Carol Boyer, congratulations, Carol. We're just talking about you. I'm glad you did hear everything. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I'm disappointed Josh lost. He's young. We need young blood in the party. I just hope that doesn't discourage him. I'm sure it won't. That things would continue. There was one other person I want to talk about, and that is, as I said, this is hard to say. Rod and I ran and lost, but the Berks County Patriots board has a winner, and it's Linda Brangadora. Where is she? Oh, Linda Brangadora. Now, folks, she beat tremendous odds. She really did. Now, I'm saying this in all respect, but she was up against an organized political machine, okay, honestly. And I say that as a compliment, and they did fantastic. But I want to tell you another thing that happened as well. She was not out at a prime campaign poll, a voting poll, where you can secure hundreds, maybe even thousands of votes. Instead of there collecting votes for herself, she spent 16 hours as judge of elections, in one of the polling booths, as opposed to collecting votes. So I'm so proud of her. I also, one final thing, as chairman of Berks County Patriots, I am very, very proud that we have a member of our Berks County Patriots board that's going to be representing you in Harrisburg. I'm very thankful for that. I thank Linda. Congratulations again, Linda. Thank you all. Actually, I'm done. But it was for a while. Okay, I have to go look at the agenda. I guess we have Carol. Carol here?
Hi, everybody. First of all, let me say, I'm in trouble. He only allowed 1 minute for me. But I'm going to give it a go. With all these illegal people here, illegal aliens.
She gets in trouble.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have 3 minutes. I'm good. I'm good. Okay. With all the illegal alien stuff you hear about, I thought you might want to know what it takes to become a citizen. Now, this is a really abbreviated list, but I made this list up. If you apply, you must be at least 18 years old. You must have proof that you entered the country lawfully. You must have lived in the United States for 5 consecutive years. If you are married to a U.S. citizen, you only have to live here for 3 consecutive years. You must live at least 6 months in the state where you applied for citizenship. You must be of good moral character, and you must have 2 citizens who are willing to testify to that fact. These are some rules of why you might not be of good moral character. United States law says you are not of good moral character if you are a drunkard, an adulterer, a bigamist, polygamist, professional gambler, convicted murderer, or if you lied to the Department of Immigration and Naturalization, and if you've been in jail for more than 180 days during those 5 years you lived here. That's why you're not a good character. These last two are good ones. Number 5, you must demonstrate a knowledge of American history and the form of government in the United States. And number 6, you must demonstrate an understanding of the English language. You must speak, read, and write words in common usage. There is a test that you have to take. If you pass the test, you go before a judge and you get sworn in. I also have a copy of the oath that you take, but it was pretty long, so I didn't bring it up here to tell you. But these illegal people do not have the right to become citizens. If you want to do it the right way, it's going to take you a minimum of 5 years. So think about that. Every year, you will read an article in the paper where they swore a certain number of people in as citizens. And I always think that those people went through this process. They went to the trouble to do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Up next, Dave Oster, regarding the letter writing campaign. Is Denise Harder here? Is Denise where? Oh, okay, great. Okay. All yours, right?
Okay, last month we wrote a letter on behalf of our board adamantly opposing SB 17, which was a bill that would make sure no person can possess, manufacture, import, sell, or transfer a so-called assault weapon or large-capacity magazine. The letter was personally delivered to the chairman of the Judiciary Committee during our bus trip, as well as mailed to all Judiciary Committee members. This month's letter writing project is to ask our congressman to support and introduce legislation to make industrial hemp legal. Industrial hemp has such a low percentage of cannabis in it, it cannot be made into a hallucinatory drug. Making industrial hemp legal would be a boon to our Pennsylvania farms, opening up other manufacturing opportunities for investment. Also, its oil-rich seed has an exceptionally high content of vital, essential fatty acids, omega-3 and 6. There is no logical reason to keep industrial hemp on the controlled substance law list. This should be a states' rights issue. Next month's letter will deal with life. It will request our congressman in Washington to support or introduce a bill established in federal law when it is legal beginning of life. We will suggest that it be at conception, but no later than the first heartbeat. We hope to have the BC Board's endorsement on the letter. If you want to be part of this letter writing project, don't forget to sign up at our table at the back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Make sure you do see the table in the back. Up next, Denise Harder. Did I miss it? Oh, I'm sorry, folks. I was trying to pay back Linda. Sorry. Come on, Linda. You're up. All the bragging she's been doing at the house. I don't know what that's about.
Greetings and thank you all for coming out tonight. Is there any first-time people here? Stand up. Thank you for coming. And if you want to become a member, if you haven't filled out the form in the back, do so. Did you get a free hot dog? Did you? Okay. That's great. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Now I have to tell you about the recipe contest. There was a deadline we had to do it ourselves. Sam and I had to do it. So I put all the recipes in a big paper bag, and Sam pulled out 3 recipes, and then we put them back in the empty bag, and he pulled out the winner. So the winner was Paul Waters. Is he here? No, okay. His recipe was for duck fat potatoes. I know it sounds bad, but it read really good. I really like it. And I'm definitely going to try it. He says that Giant sells duck fat, so you can get duck fat there. And the other 2 winners were Barbara Soda with her chocolate and peanut chip pretzel cookies with coarse sea salt. And the other was Ann Miller with her breakfast brunch. These recipes are all posted on our website now, so if you want to try them, go on the website and copy them down. I'll tell you, we had many great sounding recipes, and I'm definitely going to go through them and try some of them. Someone sent a chicken pot pie recipe, and it's different than the one I always make, so I'm going to try it and see what the difference is. We had some strange ones like baked squirrel, and a recipe for fried eggs that was a whole sheet of paper long instructions, including what music to play while you're preparing them. That's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to try them. Too much work. Also, we had potato filling, which was very similar to what my family uses, but I'm going to try that also. But I thank all of you that were kind enough to send in the recipes. It was a lot of fun reading them, really it was. However, I'm not going out and catching any squirrels. Also, we put cards, Berks County Patriot cards on the seats. Please pick them up, take them with you, and I have more if you need more. I'd like you to hand them out to people. Whenever you meet somebody new or so, get out the card. It has all the information on it, when we meet, the time, it's a free meeting, and encourage people to come because we really do need help with our membership. We need to fill these seats. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. Denise, now it's your turn. Start for the next one. Denise is here for the Wall and Heels. I don't know if you've been down to D.C. to see the Vietnam Memorial there. If you haven't, this is the next best thing.
Hello everyone, my name is Denise Harner. I'm the 14th District Commander for Berks and Lehigh Counties of the American Legion. My home post is Birdsboro. I've been there for about 20 years. My son is 3rd generation Navy. So last summer, Donna, who's the president of our auxiliary, her husband's Marine, came to me and said, hey Commander, I solicited the Wall That Heals. And I just I didn't roll my eyes, but I thought, okay Donna. About 3 months later, Donna got the wall. So I want to introduce Donna Bear, who's the president of the auxiliary, and she's going to give you some details. We have a stand in the back, so please come see us, and Donna, come on up.
She did roll her eyes. Let's get the facts straight here. They actually laughed at me. But anyway, I did get an invitation to host the wall, and my Legion family has been very generous. My riders, my Sals, my post, and Denise as my co-chair has been very supportive with bringing the Wall That Heals to Birdsboro. It's going to arrive July 5th, and the riders of our post is going to escort it from Pottstown. You know where Pottstown is? Sunnybrook is the staging area, and it's going to be escorted. We're anticipating about 300 plus motorcycles. So it's going to go up High Street, come up through down 82 and through Birdsboro. It's going to take about 6 hours to erect because it's 375 feet, this wall. It's a replica. And this wall is special because it's from Washington. It was created by the founders of the wall in Washington, so it's very special. So after it gets erected, we're going to have a soft opening on Thursday evening, July 5th. Friday, most of you are probably familiar with the Vietnam Veterans Group of America, Chapter 131. They will be doing a candlelight ceremony on Friday at 7 p.m. And then Saturday at 10 a.m. we will be having a remembrance ceremony with Corey Etchberger. His father, the Berks County Veterans Affairs Center, is named after him. So he will be our key speaker. We will have several legions with some wreaths that will be laid at the wall, as well as a pinning ceremony honoring families and spouses of Vietnam veterans. So we have several events planned for this wall. We're very proud and honored. Are there any veterans in the room right now? We'd like to say this time, at our post, that is our main priority, is to honor our veterans and thank you and welcome home. We have a stand back there. We have a web page that he's going to hand out some flyers. On there, you'll see the ceremonies where you can sign up to volunteer. And the wall's going to be open 24 hours once it arrives. All through the night, it's lit up, and you will actually be able to do etchings of the name, you know, the rubbings. So we're very, very excited, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Folks, make sure you stop by their table in the back. More importantly, visit their opening. Folks, we're going to slip in a 2-minute presentation that's not on the agenda. This is the CP Tactical Solutions. They're having a grand opening, and we're going to give them 2 minutes. And at the same time, they're going to take VCP flyers to the grand opening to help promote us. So I think this will be a win-win situation. You'll be hearing from Christopher Buffetto. Christopher, and for those of you who may not know Christopher, he was here a few years ago for one meeting at the gun raffle, won the gun raffle, never came back, and opened his own business now. Christopher.
We came out here to let you know that we're opening up. We have a range that's been open since the summer. It's veteran-owned and operated. A lot of law enforcement guys were involved. A lot of training. What we found was the need in the civilian market is most people don't understand the weapons that they're trying to either ban or throw off the track. So what we did was, me and my grandfather last year opened an indoor shooting range in Central Spring. Our grand opening was on the 20th. I'd like to offer an invitation to all of you now. We're going to take some flyers, and we have some flyers in the back. Nicole over there can answer some questions. She doesn't want to go up here and be super critical this week. Now, I'm going to hand it off to our lead female instructor, which is Laura Yotanani.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura James. I'm the lead female instructor for CP Tactical. We offer a lot of different classes for all ages and all skill levels. We offer one-on-one training, we offer NRA classes, we offer concealed carry classes. So I'll be here for a while if anyone has any questions. Please stop out at the grand opening. You get to meet all of the staff. It'll be a lot of fun. The freshmen, raffles, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you both, and good luck with the grand opening, and success in handing out our flyers as well. Folks, it's going to take about 2 minutes to set up for the next presentation. Evan, are you around? Evan, you want to give me a hand? Leon, 1 second, just 1 second, I'll tell you when. Okay. Ready? Okay. I didn't say 1-1. Well, that's okay. I think I'll get through this somehow. Folks, up next, need some light here. Dan Barkowski is the Director of Communications for the PA Family Institute. He will speak about HB 2050 and SB 1050, which is the Down Syndrome Protection Act, which we've talked about the last couple months. Folks, Dan Barkowski, is that how it is? Barkowski. Oh, Barkowski, sorry about that.
Good evening. Again, my name is Dan Barkowiak. I know I get a lot of different versions of the last name. Actually, thinking with my last name, I wanted to again thank the veterans that are here. I just spent a weekend with my family, my father, and was talking about my grandfather. He served in Seabees in Guam, and talking about my grand uncle who was over in Iwo Jima with the Marines. And it just was kind of fascinating just hearing some more of the stories. And so again, wherever you serve, certainly thank you for that service. Again, my name is Dan Barkowiak. I am the Director of Communications with the Pennsylvania Family Council organization. If you're familiar with Focus on the Family, it's often how some can learn about us. There are 40 family policy councils from around the country, and we're the one based in Pennsylvania, dealing with various issues, public policy issues, just areas we try to say that our mission is to make Pennsylvania a place where God is honored, life is cherished, families thrive, and religious freedom flourishes. So we've been, it's almost 30 years now, the organization's been around, we're based in Harrisburg. And I appreciate the invitation. I know Helen McMinn, I don't know if she's here tonight, but back almost a year ago, when we were over in Reading, the school district there was looking to put in a sex education program, an office right in the school, staffed by Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in the state, in the country. And to have them do the sex education with an abortion clinic 2 miles down the road. By one vote, the school board voted down the policy. And so it's thankful for, I don't know how many lives, but frankly, I would submit that there are lives that have been saved this year through that vote. So I'm appreciative of those that were over there in Reading. Yeah, yes, give a shout out. But those that were there fighting that, certainly thank you for it. So I'm going to dive in. I was asked to speak on it's the Down Syndrome Protection. This is a policy that really this year has been one of the top debates over in Harrisburg. And there's some things happening this week, next week that really need your help to see this become law here in Pennsylvania. So with me, I wanted to start off, we have a new web tool at the Pennsylvania Family Council called When a Politician Tells You. And we tackled various issues. I know we just went through a campaign season. You probably got all kinds of messages sent to your home. And often we'll hear it's difficult to know what is truthful. And so what we did with this tool, we tried to take various statements made by elected officials or candidates and to say, is this something that you can rely upon? Is this truth, or are they just blowing smoke? And so we have a variety of things at the website, so when a politician tells you.com. Tonight I wanted to tackle a little bit one question. When a politician tells you we cannot, under any circumstances, create laws that limit abortion, they're making a dangerous and dishonest claim. I brought a guest with me, and I'm probably sure the gentleman has not either spoken here at this event. His name would be Governor Tom Wolf, and he's my guest in a moment, and I have just a 6-second clip, something that he posted just last week to his social media pages. I'll see if this plays, just 6-second clip. Yeah, I'm going to play that one more time. I'm just going to turn up so you can hear it all. Yeah, this was Governor Wolf just posting this last week.
We cannot have politicians standing between patients and their doctors under any circumstances.
Statement that he made right here. We cannot have politicians standing between patients and their doctors under any circumstances. I want to get back to this statement in a moment. On November 18th, 1989, Governor Bob Casey signed into law the Pennsylvania Abortion Control Act. I was 4 years old at the time. So it was quite some time. But now, one interesting part of the law is that there's a line that says that Pennsylvania wants to encourage childbirth over abortion. Right in the law, you can see the common and statutory law of Pennsylvania shall be construed so as to extend to the unborn the equal protection of the laws and to further the public policy of the Commonwealth, encouraging childbirth over abortion. The law, when it was passed, was quickly challenged by Planned Parenthood. They challenged quite anything that has to deal with anything that limits abortion. But they are also, as I mentioned, the state's leading abortion business. They perform half of the 30,000 plus abortions that happen every year in the state. So the case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they upheld most of the law. The court specifically said the very notion that the state has a substantial interest in potential life leads to the conclusion that not all regulations must be deemed unwarranted. So back to the Governor Wolf's statement, what he's saying, we cannot have politicians standing between patients and their doctors under any circumstances. I mean, it's really a straight up a line from a Planned Parenthood playbook that he says all the time, frankly, when it comes to these issues. And if we take that truth claim, or that claim to be truth, really what must we accept? If he's saying that politicians cannot stand in the way under any circumstances, then abortion is legal on demand for any reason or no reason at all up to 9 months in pregnancy with no laws whatsoever bringing any type of limitation. And that's dangerous. I could bring up in June of last year, Hillcrest. I have a couple pictures. It's not a very beautiful place, but Hillcrest Abortion Center in Harrisburg was ordered to suspend their services and then later on had to shut down because of the failed inspections from the state health department that they went through. I mean, they did not have a registered OBGYN. They didn't have a registered nurse on staff. They were using expired medications. They were had improper anesthesia procedures during abortion surgery. I mean, the list was a laundry list of violations. And they finally were ordered to shut down. The only reason why we have right now mandatory safety inspections and make abortion clinics, surgical abortion clinics, follow the same rules as every other surgical facility in the state is because of a law that was passed in 2011 that mandated they be treated the same way as another surgical facility. That law was put in place, especially because of what happened in West Philadelphia with an abortion clinic that was owned by Kermit Gosnell. You might know of him, and I certainly recommend afterwards. I know it's a tough viewing, but it's a story that needs to be told. There's a documentary, 3801 Lancaster, that tells the story of Kermit Gosnell. His clinic went uninspected for over 17 years, and a drug ring ended up discovering what was going on in his clinic. And again, we put into law that they have had mandatory safety inspections. So that's just one. Beyond safety inspections, one question in dealing just with the state having an interest in limiting abortion, limiting the potential life that would adhere to it. Can you have an abortion at any time of pregnancy here in Pennsylvania? And the answer, is no. Right now, you can have an abortion up to 6 months in pregnancy. I know we brought up earlier that trying to introduce a bill when life is at 6 weeks at heart, and that legislation has been introduced in Pennsylvania. It was actually what Governor Wolf was saying earlier. That was his response to when that was introduced just last week. But right here in Pennsylvania, you can have an abortion up to 6 months of pregnancy. Now, there is a limit on that. However, what I'd say is back in 1989 is when that was established, and there were some babies that were surviving at that time when born at 24 weeks. Anything earlier didn't have as such of a chance, and that's why they established that. Today, we've made many medical advancements to now babies as early as 20 weeks are surviving. And especially at 24 weeks, the majority of babies that are born now survive. Yet we have an abortion law that is allowing abortion at the same time. And we try to fix that by updating our law to say that abortion can only happen at 20 weeks. And even something like that, though it passed through the State House and Senate, our Governor Wolf last December vetoed that legislation. So we currently still have an abortion law that allows it up to 6 months in pregnancy. It is very sad. So again, there are efforts ongoing in the state to try to bring some limitations to abortion, and for good reason. So again, another question to bring up. In Pennsylvania, can you have an abortion up to 24 weeks in pregnancy for any reason, 0 exceptions? We put a test on our website. There was a 6-question test on the Down Syndrome Protection Act. And this was one of the questions, and only 10% of entrants got the question right. The answer is no. There currently is one exception. Here in Pennsylvania, it is law to say that you cannot have an abortion based on the sex of the baby. So if a woman went to her doctor and said, you know, I have a boy, I wanted a girl, I want to have an abortion. Right now, that is illegal here in Pennsylvania. And so it gets back to, I guess, the idea that with Governor Wolf's under no circumstances, you know, abortion on demand at all costs. There are good reasons to have limitations on abortion, and we should continue to seek out other ways to limit abortion, especially in what we're seeing, whether it's in as updated law in terms of the 24 weeks to 20 weeks, and then also with a law that's being introduced now and passed through the PA House called the Down Syndrome Protection Act, that House Bill 2050. So, let me just see. There should absolutely be no reason why the diagnosis of a Down syndrome, diagnosis of Down syndrome should be a reason to have an abortion. I've had the joy of meeting families over the course of the last few months of children, adults that have Down syndrome, and it has been an absolute joy to interact with them. I work with a staff member that has a 3-year-old, Maria, that has Down syndrome, and the day we had a rally on this legislation, I was watching her for a little while, and she just was enjoying it, and holding her and seeing her smile. And frankly speaking, our history, without going into too much detail, our history when it comes to Down syndrome is rather ugly. You know, in my generation, we did have children and my peers being allowed into the classroom, public school classroom. But that was not always the case, and we had periods of time, especially led by the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, who would look to 2 options when it came to people with Down syndrome: segregation or sterilization. By 1981, over 60,000 people with Down syndrome and other intellectual disabilities had been sterilized. I mean, it's rather gruesome when you look at some of the history with regards to children and adults with Down syndrome. We treated them. Now we've come a good ways since some of those times, but there's still various problems. I could say a few of them would be when a family is given a diagnosis of Down syndrome. There are still many misconceptions and frankly misinformation given. I was speaking with one family that was given a diagnosis just about 3 months ago. And they said they were not going to have an abortion by any means, and the doctor replied, the medical professional replied, said, well, they don't feel pain. And just the insinuation. There was another family that when she had her baby born, the doctors and nurses that were coming into the room kept asking her repeatedly, didn't you have a test? You know, insinuating that this baby shouldn't be here, that she's holding. We could look at some other data saying right now, in the next 4 years, it looks like the market for non-invasive prenatal testing is going to quadruple in the next 5 years. So it's one of the testing that it does is for Down syndrome. And there's a quote, there's a pediatrician and CEO for a Belgian lab, Patrick Willems, that has said, quote, preventing the birth of 50 babies with Down syndrome will offset the cost of fully implementing the non-invasive prenatal test into Dutch public health care. I mean, it's scary, some of the things that are happening across the country and across the world when it comes to children and adults with Down syndrome. The thing that really hit it off, I'm going to say, this is currently, again, the law that's in current law that says no one can have a sex-selective abortion. But on August 14th, 2017 really became a lightning rod for states to pick up these types of legislation. A story came out, CBS News, the title, "Why Down Syndrome in Iceland has almost disappeared." And the first sentence was, "With the rise of prenatal screening tests across Europe and the United States, the number of babies born with Down syndrome has significantly decreased. But few countries have come as close to eradicating Down syndrome births as Iceland." The eradicating that they use, the way that they are eradicating babies, is because they are aborting every baby that is diagnosed with Down syndrome. It's startling what is happening, and to think that it's this eugenics movement to cleanse a race, to say that, oh, we're eradicating Down syndrome, but they're killing every baby that is given the diagnosis. So that has become really a lightning rod for states to take on what we have here in the state, House Bill 2050. What it would say is you cannot have an abortion based on the sole reason of being a Down syndrome diagnosis. Speaker of the House, Mike Turzai, State Representative Judy Ward did a tremendous job and saw a victory through the PA House with a 71% majority to say that this should be law in Pennsylvania. And 71% is significant. We do have a governor, Governor Wolf, who has announced that he would veto this legislation. But any veto of a governor can be overridden by a 2/3 majority vote, a subsequent vote by the state House and Senate. So it's certainly a great sign to see that there is that much support in the House. Right now, the legislation sits in the state Senate Judiciary Committee. And really with some limited session days in the legislature for the rest of this year, the legislative session ends at the end of the year. It really needs some action, especially this next week or two, to see this legislation pass. So I want to introduce, and I have a 3-minute video, if I may. We held a rally in Harrisburg, and I'm going to exit out. There's a few different stories that we have. The Gerber baby of this year was a child with Down syndrome. There's a John Cronin, owns John's Crazy Socks. I made a story, President George H.W. Bush, for the funeral of his wife, former First Lady Barbara Bush, the socks, he wanted to honor his wife, and so he sent in those. So there's definitely stories of people with Down syndrome making a huge impact. And I want to X out here. I just want to play a quick video. There's a woman that lives in Oregon. She is of low stature. She's has a quiet voice, and I had the joy of meeting her. But she is been traveling the world with the message that Down syndrome is a life worth saving. Her name is Karen Gaffney. If you've never met her, I recommend Googling her later on. But here's highlights from the rally that was held in March, kicking off this legislation, and I hope you take her words to heart.
Those of us with Down syndrome and our families face a very difficult future. We face the possibility of wiping out all the tremendous progress we have made in the last 60 years. Just as we are making so much progress, our whole industry has grown up, focused on prenatal screening. Screening that would end our lives before we take our first breath. Now that you can test for Down syndrome before birth, there are many experts in the medical community who will say this extra chromosome we carry around is not compatible with life. Not compatible with life? If you put your head up and look around, you will see and hear and read about phenomenal accomplishments of those of us living with Down syndrome all around the world. You will learn about people who are graduating from their high schools, some going on to colleges, knocking on the that Down syndrome is a life worth living. Down syndrome is a life worth choosing. And Down syndrome is a life worth saving. Those of us with Down syndrome.
So again, I hope you take heed to what Karen Gaffney is saying. And just lastly to speak, often you might think that this is a no-brainer type of legislation. Right now, Planned Parenthood, Keystone Progress, ACLU, a group of women that came to Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, with dressed in red robes, trying to, quote, shame PA representatives into voting for this legislation. There are many groups that are active in trying to stop this. And we especially need some activity this next week or two if we're going to try to get a committee vote so we can set it up for the fall. In the fall, there's only going to be a few session days. And so to try to do it all then, it might not happen. So these next few weeks are critical. State Senator Jake Corman runs the schedule for the bill and can be of influence. So we encourage you to contact your state senator, contact Senator Corman to encourage them to support and do all they can for the Down Syndrome Protection Act. So certainly thank you for that. Thank you for the time. And I'll be in the back. There's some handouts on this legislation. I'm happy to talk about anything about it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. We'd like to have you come back sometime, and we can give you additional time. We do have something in the back that people can see. Okay, great. Commissioner Leinbach said he can speak from the floor, so we don't have to take the time to reset things up. Introducing the commissioner, most of you know the commissioner. He's been a strong supporter of Berks County Patriots. I'm going to read part of his bio. It's a long bio, so I'm making it short. I do let some of the folks. Hi, folks. Let's see. Christian Leinbach was elected in 2007 to serve his first four-year term on the Berks County Board of Commissioners. Upon re-election in 2011, he was selected by his peers to serve as chairman of the board. Christian is a member of the election board, the prison board, and the 4-H development board. He chairs the salary board and the retirement board, which manages a multi-million-dollar county employees pension fund. Additionally, Leinbach is the director of the Berks County Conservation Board and the Berks Community Television Board. On November 3rd, 2015, Christian was re-elected to serve as Berks County Commissioner for the third term, and again was selected to serve as chairman of the board. Christian and his wife Jennifer, along with their family, reside in a log home they built themselves in Tilton Township. They are active members of Schuylkill Valley Bible Chapel in Mooresville, Pennsylvania. Christian enjoys hiking, gardening, softball, volleyball, music, biographies, and classic movies, especially westerns. He credits his passionate desire to preserve freedom and a free enterprise system to a trip he took behind the Iron Curtain to visit relatives in 1979. Folks, let's give a warm welcome to Commissioner Christian Leinbach.
Thank you very much, Sam. I want to recognize my executive assistant, Mary Bjorn. Mary has worked with me since day one, and anybody that knows anything about her office, she is responsible for how well the office runs. If there's a screw up, that was probably my fault. A couple of things before I get into the material that I have. I want to reiterate the value of going to see the wall. I've been to D.C. numerous times to see the Vietnam Wall, but a couple of years ago we had a wall over at Muhlenberg at Jim Dietrich Park. I cannot tell you, you go and you think you're seeing something smaller, so it's not going to have quite the same impact. It is powerful. Please go if you know veterans. Invite them to go along with you, especially if you know Vietnam. veterans. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of that. You have the flyer on your chair. I believe it's July 3rd? 5th through the 8th. Put that on your calendar. Secondly, this Saturday, we have the 70th annual Berks County Armed Forces Day Parade over in Wyomissing and West Reading. It is the oldest Armed Forces Parade in the United States. It started 2 years before Armed Forces Day was formally recognized by then President Harry Truman. For those of you in the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force is being honored. Last September was their 70th anniversary. For those of you not in the Air Force, you're welcome to come as well. I also want to put a plug in for CT Tactical. I know Chuck Perfetto, my oldest son, my wife and I's oldest son, went over to the facility a couple of months ago, was able to take a tour and look at it, and he has since been deployed to Iraq. And so think of our son Matt. He is in Iraq probably till the end of October, beginning of November. So county government. I want to talk to you tonight about 3 related but separate issues. We're going to start by talking about the structure, and this is going to sound boring, but hopefully you will learn something about the county tax structure that you didn't know before. I want to talk about where we are with the future of the Berks County Jail, and then I want to close with where we are on the future of the Berksheim. But first of all, going into the area of taxes in county government. With the exception of Allegheny County and Philadelphia County, who operate under completely different rules, I think we're all aware, so often the politicians make special rules that only apply to Philadelphia and Allegheny County. The rest of the 65 counties rely almost exclusively on property tax. We are unlike school districts, we are unlike municipalities. If you look at the revenue sources for municipalities and school districts, there are a wide array of ways that they're able to raise taxes. When it comes to counties, it's property taxes. Now there's some issues with property taxes. Number one, and I think those of you that know me know that I believe property taxes are immoral. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons, but the most significant one is if anyone knows the Declaration of Independence and what the original 3 great inalienable rights were. They're life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But where did they come from? They came from John Locke's Treatise on Government. And John Locke referred to them as life, liberty, and property. Thomas Jefferson, and I think rightfully, realized there was something even beyond property, and it was the idea that you could own and benefit from an idea. The pursuit of happiness is more than just property, it's the concept of the free enterprise system. But when you pay property tax, you never own your property. You rent it from the government. But there's another more insidious issue, and it's been demonstrated during my term. If you would look at a chart of property tax revenue, and this is true in a school district, this is going to be true in a municipality, and it is true in every single county. In 2008, October 2008, we had the Great Recession began. The crash with the markets. And 2009, 2010, 2011, we started to see improvement without a doubt. And I've seen the charts on income and even sales drop like a rock. People lost their jobs.
people lost a significant percentage of income. In Berks County, I believe it was averaging 30 to 40% decline in real income. Do you know what happened to property tax revenues during the same period of time? They did not go down. They were flat, and they continue to be very flat. We'll touch on that in a minute. Because there's another aspect of property taxes that make them immoral. They do not follow the economy. They don't. Though probably 2010, 2011, the increase year over year was still 0.3%. We actually saw an increase. So in other words, what happens with property tax, if you lost your job, the county, I'm not going to pick on anybody else, the county still comes up to you and says, we don't care that you lost your job, we still want the same amount of money. That's one of the reasons I believe property tax needs to be eliminated, and it needs to be changed to a sales, combination sales and earned income. And I support that not just for school districts, I support that for counties, and it can be done. We need a change in the law, but it absolutely can be done. We should not be funding any level of government on the backs of property owners. But there's another important thing to understand, and that is, when is a cut in spending not really a cut? In Harrisburg and in Washington, we often hear conservatives, forget about the liberals. Let's talk about conservatives. They're going to cut spending. Well, let's talk about some of the ways Pennsylvania's cut spending. One of the ways they've cut spending over the last several years is simply not a cut in spending, it's a budget trick. They took the funding for children and youth, and this is probably 3 budgets ago, and they now do it every year. They took the fourth quarter payments that go to counties, $171 million each year, and they moved it to the next fiscal year. And they said, we just cut $171 million. Now, some people came after me when I heard they were going to do that. I said, whoa, that's the entire fourth quarter payments to every county. They had to change the rules to allow counties to still go ahead and bill for our fourth quarter payments and get paid even though the money isn't there to the following year. If you don't understand that, join the club. I don't understand that either. But that was one of the ways they saved money. Here's another way they've saved money in the last 3 budgets. You may not realize it, but in Pennsylvania, there's a built-in conflict between county government and county courts. The Supreme Court has ruled at least twice, maybe 3 times, since 1988 on something called the unified judiciary. In other words, they come out and said it's the responsibility of the legislature to fully fund the courts. Right now, the way it works is county government has the budget responsibility for county courts. That's Court of Common Pleas, that's the MDJ offices, and it's a number of other offices, Prothonotary, Clerk of Courts, Juvenile and Adult Probation. We fund it, but we have no authority to manage it. The courts, the president judge, and I'm not attacking our president judge or court administration, they have the authority to manage, but they have no authority to spend money. Think about what that creates. It creates a tremendous conflict between the courts and counties. Guess who sets the salaries of judges? The legislature. Even the district attorney, who we have a very good district attorney. We pay most of that salary.
The legislature sets it. The last 3 years, the legislature has saved taxpayer money by cutting the reimbursements they give to counties to help pay for the salaries of district attorneys and for courts. They call that a savings. Now, here's the key. Where does most of the money come from the state? Well, you have a type of tax. Sales and income. Okay? When a cost is shifted to counties that we previously didn't have, where do we get the money from? Property tax. That's why you've heard more and more county commissioners come out and challenge the legislature. When you pass unfunded mandates onto the county, you're raising local county property tax. Unfunded mandates. Let me give you one. Started in 2015. The Sandusky laws. They're a group of anywhere from 28 to 30 laws. Now look, what Jerry Sandusky did was horrific. There's no question that what he did was wrong. But I'm sick and tired of conservatives falling into the same trap as the people we often point to. Whenever there's a problem, what do conservative legislators often do? They want to make new laws. Well, here's what's happened. Because of those new laws, we've had a dramatic increase. Year 1, 2015, 30% increase in caseload. The second year, 16, it was about 15%. In 17, it was about 12%. And that's year over year. We ended up having to hire 4 county detectives in the district attorney's office just to deal with the new claims because of the new rules. And to date, do you know how many people have been prosecuted in Berks County under the Sandusky law? 0. We have cast a wide net and gotten families, honest families, in some big trouble. We need to better understand that mandates are real. I've had legislators look me in the eye when I say unfunded mandates that say, name one. And I start naming them. When you look at counties' primary method of revenue, not even primary, 95% is property tax. So when a mandate is passed on from the federal government, the state government, to counties, it goes against property tax. When there's a cost shift from the state to counties, and we don't have ability to say we're not doing it, it goes to county property tax. When there is a cut in things like the judiciary, we have no ability to say, we're not going to, sorry, district attorney, they cut the reimbursement for your pay, we're going to cut your pay. We can't do that under the law. I share that because I talk to so many people and I realize they don't understand the difference. And here's the last thing I want to share about property tax. Remember I said that when the economy drops, property tax doesn't drop with it. It won't increase as quickly. But in a good economy, it doesn't increase. The best we've been told, and it hasn't been at this level since I've been in office, would be a 2.5% to 3.5% increase year over year. Right now, we have not reached 1% year over year. I think last year we were 9, 10. Good last year, it's very good this year. We're not seeing that because there's no correlation between the economy and property tax. It's another reason we need to get rid of property tax. How are we doing on time? All night. All night. No, I don't think so. No one wants to come here a politician all night. And when I'm done, Mary's watching my time. We'll open it up to questions. The Berks County Jail. What's the problem? Very simply put, there are two jails that have been pieced together. An original 1933 jail that is in very poor condition. The design's inefficient, but the condition, the tunnels that run underneath it with the mechanicals are a disaster. Back around 1991, the decision was made to expand the jail, and in 1992, an addition was completed to that jail. We had a firm come in and make some recommendations, and those recommendations were presented to the commissioners last August. I don't know if you picked this up, but we go out of our way to share things publicly as soon as we get it. I can't remember the specific date of the meeting, but the meeting in August where this study was shared from L.R. Kimball, they gave us two options: renovate or build new. The renovation was approximately $144 million and almost 7 years to build. And you think about a renovation of a jail is a very complicated thing because you're moving prisoners around. It's difficult. The other option was building new, and that was $156 million. It would be built on the general location of the North Campus. All three commissioners reacted the same way, and that is we need to come up with a better solution than that. That's too much money. So here are some of the options we are looking at. First of all, we are talking to a company right now. We've not made a decision yet to hire them. We've met with them several times. They're called CGL. All they do is help you evaluate what all the options are and help you make the best decision. So what are the options? Obviously, building new. Obviously, renovating. The one we started to talk about a little bit more is what can we do to buy 10 or 20 more years in the current jail? Is that possible? Can we do that? And the question is, how much does that cost? At some point, if it goes past a certain dollar amount, it's a waste of taxpayers' money if you come back in 20 years and you have to do a major overhaul. Another solution, and I've checked a couple of jails that have been done this way, and there are a number of them across the country, and that is there are firms out there that will design, build, own, maintain, and lease the building back to the county for a 20 or 30-year period. It can be very helpful from an upfront standpoint, from not having to borrow this large amount of money and build and own. It helps from a maintenance standpoint. It's one of the options we're looking at, and I've been in a couple of those jails. Another option, and this has two parts to it, is privatization. Privatization. Now, there are two types. There's jails and there's prisons. Anyone want to venture to guess the difference? Louder. That's close. Jails, only counties and cities have jails. People in jails, there's two things common. One, a sentence of 2 years or less, or you can be in jail. And in our Berks County Jail, about 23% of the people in the jail right now have not been convicted of anything. They're there waiting trial. So you have people waiting for trial, and you have people with a 2-year sentence or less. Prisons are state and federal, and everyone in a prison has been sentenced, and their sentence is greater than 2 years. That's a simple way to put it. So you hear the term prison and jail, there actually is a difference. On the privatization side, there are a handful, when I say a handful, 3 or 4 companies in the country that actually run jails or prisons. Very few of them actually run jails because of the nature of jails are very different. They're more complicated. Every single day, several times a day, the sheriff is moving folks, and I could tell you knew exactly, moving folks back and forth between the courtroom and the jail. When you're in a prison, those folks come in, they're sentenced, and they're there until they're paroled or possibly moved to another facility. So it's much simpler to operate a prison than it is a jail. You've got a lot more moving parts in a jail. There's only one privately run jail in Pennsylvania. It's in Delaware County. It's run by the GEO Group. I've been there, and there's some good and bad. Well, thank you, folks. That's pretty kind of you. I guess that's the signal she wants me to talk about. We're looking at that. I will tell you, I also have some serious concerns based on what I've observed. The one thing I will highlight, in the business world, turnover of employees, if you hit 20%, you've got a problem in a business. Our jail, our turnover of employees is just below 10%. GEO in Delaware County, and not from some news report, from my tour, from the deputy warden, their turnover rate's 33%. That's a concern. Another area that we're looking at right now is the possibility of privatizing facilities and maintenance on the jail. Lancaster County did that a couple of years ago. CGL is the company that took that over. 19 minutes. We've gotten very good reports from Lancaster County. We're waiting to get a proposal from CGL. Now, there's something you need to understand. We have unions in Berks County, public sector unions. In their contracts, not from this board, and we traced it back to 1990, and it was in each of the contracts then. There is basically a non-privatization clause. We have to bargain to get out of business, of a certain business, or to privatize it. We're prepared to do that if this proposal makes sense. Here's the other thing I want to touch on. We are also doing some other things. When we took office in 2008, the prior board had already approved a bond, a $27 million bond, to expand the jail to add about 400 more beds. Commissioner Barnhart and I asked the question, what is this based on? And we were glad we asked the question. And Commissioner Scott supported it, but he was there, he had already approved the bond issue. We asked the question, we got the study, and it was a study from, don't hold me to it, 2005, 2004, that was projecting continued climb in the prison population, and already in 2008, there was a slowing of that increase. And we said, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. We did our research, we killed the project, and we refunded the bond. So in other words, we didn't say, wow, what are we going to do with this $27 million? We recognized that's taxpayers' money. We gave that back. But here's some things that we are addressing right now that you've probably heard about. Mental health in jails. You've heard me talk about it here before. It is a crime that when you look at our population of just a little over 1,000 people, that over half, there are there's four categories. I'm only going to look at two very quickly. One, severely mentally ill. I mean people that absolutely have no clue what is going on, often requiring one-on-one care of a corrections officer. People that need a mental health facility, not a jail. There are approximately 93 in our county jail, almost 10%. of our population, and they cost a tremendous amount of money. And I don't care who you are. We saw the issue with the Down syndrome. I agree with Pennsylvania Families Institute 100%. But let me tell you, we have people in our county jail that don't belong there, but county jails across the United States become the #1 provider. The #1 provider of mental health services. There are another almost 500 people in our county jail that are on psychotropic medication and in active mental health treatment out of 1,000. The Acadia, and I know I'm going to jump into some controversy here, the Acadia facility that's proposed on Route 183 across from the airport is absolutely necessary, and we as a country need to rethink what we did back in the 70s and 80s when we dumped people out of the state hospitals onto the street and somehow thought that was going to be okay. We can talk about that later, but I want to get onto the last topic. The future of the Berks home. Yes. Go right ahead. No one has to ask me permission to go use the restroom, okay? I won't be offended. The first question that people ask is, why is there all of a sudden a problem with the Berks home? Well, let me touch on several things. Number one, I want you to know, and this predates me, so I'm not taking credit for it, but since late 2004, our current CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Bob Patrizio, has been doing 5-year budgeting. In other words, whenever we look at any decision, financial decision, whatever it is, whether we're talking about taxes, we're talking about spending, talking about a certain department, we don't want to know what happens today. We want to look at the impact of the decision in year 2, in year 3, in year 4, in year 5. So whenever we get additional information, we always plug it in to our 5-year budget. Last summer, in looking at the Berksheim numbers, we knew that we had at that point 11 years of the Medicaid reimbursement rate. Now, everybody understands the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, right? Medicare, seniors, Medicaid is for the poor. Decades ago, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania set up a system relative to nursing homes and Medicaid that they would fund folks that need to go into nursing homes that are poor through the Medicaid reimbursement rate. We didn't put it in place. It's the system that has been in place for decades. Over the last 11 years, and when I refer to 11 years, think this is from last summer, so it would be 16 back. The total increase in the Medicaid reimbursement rate to counties across the Commonwealth was 6.6%. Now, Mayor, I'm going to ask you to get the Medicaid chart out. I want to reference that in a minute. Put this in perspective, during the same period of time, general inflation was 17% over that 11 years. Healthcare inflation was 30%. We got 6.6%. Not only were we told that last summer, guess what? 2017-18, no increase. And the next 5 years, there will be no increase. So, 16 years and a 6.6% increase. Why is that important? Because approximately 80% of the beds at the Berksheim are Medicaid. Now, how many? Let's talk about the rate here for a minute. I don't have glasses on, but. No, I have them here, I just don't use them. So, let me put this in perspective. If we look at the Medicaid rate today, it is $220.79 a day. So if you start doing the numbers, this is big money. We're not talking, you take $220.79 times 365. The private pay rate, and it varies because whether you want a room to yourself or you're going to share, but it's between $350 and $400 a day. And I will tell you that Berksheim is the preferred nursing home in our county. The truth is, I don't want to go to any nursing home, Lord willing, but if you have to go to a facility, the Berksheim is a wonderful facility. That rate is $220.79. If it had increased with CPI, just the CPI, regular CPI rate, it would be $247.60 today. If it had increased with the medical health care, it would have been $270.26. Two questions. One, how much of your tax dollars have gone to fund the Berksheim in the last 11 years? Anyone want to guess? What's that? None. Zero. And this is one thing that sets us apart from almost every other county nursing home. Most county nursing homes are bleeding red ink. If you look at Northampton County, the last I checked, 4 to 5 million. York County just announced they're selling theirs. They've lost $75 million over the last 12 years. In other words, they have had to take $75 million out of their general fund to fund their county nursing home. You can look across the Commonwealth, but here's another fact, and it's because of the rate information that I just shared with you. 7 years ago, there were 32 counties with county nursing homes. Today, there are 18. Of those 18, 4 of them are considering selling. York County, which very recently said they are, Clinton County, Bradford County, and Berks County. And it is being driven by the Medicaid rate. So the question is, what does Berks County need in the rate? Now remember what I said, just basic inflation, $247.60. We are break even this year. Depending on what happens with some other dollars that the state's working on, we will go in the red either next year or the following year. We need next year, based on our current numbers, $226. The following year, $233. The following year, $240. The following year, $246. I'm telling you this, I don't want to confuse you with numbers, but we would have to go to 2023 and we would still be in the black at the 247, where we should be. Now, what are the options? What is important to understand, the county is not losing money yet, but because of the 5-year projections, we had a 1.5% increase projected out because we've gotten that a couple times before in the last 11 years. We thought we would get it. That was taken out. That took us into a negative position. But we've run a very good county nursing home from a fiscal standpoint and from a quality standpoint. I believe we are where we are, and it's been very controversial. Look, I know it's all tax dollars, but we didn't set the system up. It's been in place for decades to fund the county home through the Medicaid reimbursement. But here are the options we find ourselves with today. One, the state steps up and deals with the funding challenge. Two, we consider a sale to a non-profit owner. I am estimating that within the next several weeks, an RFP will go out from Berks County to nonprofit operator owners to bid on the Berksheim. I've been very clear in my position on sale because, again, I've done a lot of research. I've seen a lot of homes get sold and the companies not follow through with the commitments they've made. I've asked for very strong commitments on number one, protection of the percentage of Medicaid beds. We average 77%. We've asked in a contract you have to guarantee a minimum of 77% in beds. Why is that important? Do you know that the Medicaid beds in Berksheim, about 336, those beds are more than all the other Medicaid beds in all the other nursing homes in Berks County. Berksheim is the place people with no other option go. And this isn't new. This is a build-off of the almshouse from the 19th century that was in the Shillington area. That's where this grew out of. Number two in the guarantees is that we must guarantee that those Medicaid beds are reserved for Berks Countyans, not from people from other counties when they need to be protected. And three, there needs to be a guarantee relative to the quality. I will stand here and make it clear to you, I am not certain at this point that those guarantees can work. We're working with the legal people that are putting out the RFP, but ultimately I need to see what the companies are going to put in place. If their guarantee is, if we don't follow it, sue us, that's not a good deal for our county. This is the difficulty. The timing, we expect to have proposals to view probably sometime in late July or August, and a decision made in September. The third option is to raise taxes to fund the shortfall. Now, you'd be amazed how many people, conservative, liberal, and in between, have said, I'm willing to pay more in taxes. Did you get that chart? But it's not as simple as saying we're going to do a 5% tax and we're good. To do this right, there would have to be a tax every single year. And let me take you through, based on the numbers today, and I literally got these 3 minutes before we go to the Q&A. I'm going to try not to make this difficult. These don't sound like big numbers, and you could argue that maybe they're not, but it's every year, it compounds. 2019, a 0.89% tax increase. 2020, 0.80, 2021, 1.44, 2022, 2.43, and so on. By 2027, looking at an annual tax increase of 5.89%. And that tax increase doesn't cover anything other than the Berksheim. Now, where am I on this issue right now? It's not maybe the answer you want to hear, but where I am at this point with what I know today, I believe the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has to figure out the system they put in place to fund the Medicaid reimbursement rate. We've had conversations with Senator Schwank with Senator Argel. To their credit, they have been working since the fall. They have been able to get some additional money, but not on the Medicaid rate, and it's not money we can count on a long-term basis, which makes it hard to make decisions when it's just a short-term solution. Representative Calder-Jerome has also very recently stepped up and said he's willing to fight on the Medicaid reimbursement rate. And about a week ago, we met with Senator Bob Mensch and explained everything to him. He has agreed to work with us on the Medicaid reimbursement rate. No matter how you cut it, it's taxes, right? It doesn't grow on trees in Washington or in Harrisburg. But I believe, as of right now, the battle that we need to fight is reaching out to our legislators and say, look, let's properly and fairly fund the Medicaid reimbursement rate. Let me share one other bit of information with you. The rate, and this was a shock to us, we found this out about a couple months ago, the variation in the rates. The rates are not the same for the 18 counties across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The rates range in Warren County, which is a very small home, $165.47 a day, to Bucks County, $266.80 a day. We are right in the middle of the 18 counties, but they are literally all over the place. So we're saying, this doesn't make any sense. And there's one other thing that doesn't make sense. If you look at York County, there's this Pleasant Acres nursing home. They're at $239, and they've been bleeding red ink for 11 years. I've already talked to Secretary Teresa Miller, and I said, look, we are fine. We believe that counties should have some responsibility on how they run their facility. If a county is not being responsible, fiscally responsible, they should get a hit on their reimbursement. But somebody who is responsible, like Berks County, we should get some kind of recognition or benefit. That is the challenge. Here's what I'm asking you to consider doing. Reach out to your legislator, reach out to Governor Wolf, and reach out to Secretary Miller, and tell them we need to address the Medicaid reimbursement rate for county nursing homes, specifically Berks County. Here's what most of them will say to you, because I had the Secretary Miller say this to me in a public gathering of county commissioners. She said, Commissioner Leinbach, everybody wants more money. I said, Secretary, that's the wrong answer. We didn't set this system up. The Commonwealth did, and you're slowly cutting off the resource that allows people poor people to afford a county nursing home. That's where we are. Our tax structure, you know what I think about property tax, where we are on the jail, and where we are on the Berksheim. And with that, I believe we have a few minutes for questions. No hard questions.
First, a comment. I don't think county government or state government belong in the nursing home business. But my question, with respect to the jail and renovating it and the high cost, why don't we just go back to the old chain gang days and let the prisoners do the work of renovating?
They do. This is a huge misunderstanding, and it's not unusual. When I became a commissioner, I thought I knew what a commissioner did. I thought I knew about jails. I didn't. We do a lot of public service projects with townships, with municipalities, with our workers, with our inmates. They are actively doing that. The idea that chain gang sounds good, but also keep in mind the pure chain gang also costs money. You still have to house the folks. What costs the money is housing people. And what we need to change is we need to change the way we treat truly nonviolent offenders. We shouldn't be putting them in a jail We should be having them doing community service. And in our country, and I was part of this in the 80s, I've been involved politically since 1980. 3 strikes and you're out. You do the crime, you do the time, it all sounds good. But it's costing all of us big bucks. Jail should be for people that need to be separated from society because they're a risk. I talk about people that are in jail waiting trial. Most of the people in the jail waiting for trial are there not because they're a flight risk, not because they're a risk to somebody else or a risk to themselves. They're there because they can't make bail. They're there because they're poor. I don't believe that's right. Not many, there are more and more counties have had their judges go to a risk assessment system. And they do a test and they determine, are they a flight risk? Are they a risk to themselves? Are they a risk to the public? If they're not, they will be let out on their own recognizance to come back to their court hearing. I've heard from a president judge in Colorado that's done this for several years, and they dramatically increased the number of people that they let out. Their rate of people showing up for their hearing was 80% when they started this in 2012. And I believe the last numbers are 2016. With a dramatic increase of people not coming to jail, do you know what the rate was for people that showed up? 90%. No, 80%. It didn't change. It didn't change because you make good decisions. You don't decide, and I'll tell you, the bail bonds business is big business. I don't agree with it. We should be dealing with people that are violent in our jails. Those are some of the reasons. You take the nonviolent folks out, you take the seriously mentally ill out, and make sure they're getting proper care, and you make a fundamental difference. In the last 5 years, we've had 4 people show up in our county jail that were arrested. Here's what was said, the same issue about all of them. They all had full-blown dementia. They all were elderly. They all were destitute. They all had no family. Their crimes varied from one lady assaulting a worker at another nursing home, and the nursing home called the police and had her arrested. 80 years old in a wheelchair, she was in our jail. The other were 3 men, one of which was, I don't know if he exposed himself or something in the Reading area in our jail. No place to put them. That's a bigger issue than you realize. Who do you have next? Larry Cohen.
Yes. Relative to the jail, do you have to separate the accused from the convicted? And is there anything under law if those that are convicted have assets that you can charge them room and board?
They are charged. They pay for a number of things. I can't give you the details. If you want to email me, I can have the warden answer that. But our inmates do pay. Where are we going next? You want me to pick or? Okay. I see these other hands here. I feel like Billy Graham, but unable to respond.
On the Berks line, have you considered another alternative of selling it and keeping the money you're putting into it now and the sale and putting it into a trust fund and using that money to pay for future patients?
I'm not sure how that would actually work, because if you sell the nursing home, you kind of lose control over the home. And the price varies dramatically. I'm not willing to consider a for-profit sale because those tend to be the ones that have the biggest problems because their job is to return a profit to their investors. So I don't know that answer. Okay. Can somebody keep track? We have several people that have had their hands up. I want to make sure we don't lose folks.
And Mr. Leinbach, I've been a history teacher, supervisor for a supervisor. Now we did use personnel from Berks County Prison to put maintenance on our recreational areas and also to do some work on our sewer treatment plants. So they do work, but is that still available for local municipalities to request that?
Yes, it is. And goes through our ward.
Okay, I'm a neighbor from Lebanon County. We sold our nursing home. Cedar Haven is a county nursing home. My mother worked there for 41 years. There's 37 years she worked as a county employee. Now, they just had a strike in the last 6 months. Stone Barn Holdings bought the facility 3 years ago. They went on strike because their benefits and everything were not up to par of a 5-star nursing home. Okay, there are some unintended consequences that happen when you do sell a nursing home to somebody like Chad Black and Stone Barn Holdings, and it's not good. Our county commissioners didn't do the proper research when they sold their nursing home. Okay, I hope you guys do a better job of what Lebanon County did.
I'm very familiar with the Cedar Haven case. I referenced that I've looked at a lot of them, and there are concerns.
You mentioned several state legislatures from Berks County who are in support of your efforts to gain a greater funding from the state. What about the other legislators that you have not named? Will you tell us the ones that are not forthcoming with a willingness to support the change?
I'm answering that by simply saying, if I haven't named them, no one has said to me, Commissioner Leinbach, and as far as I know, to any of the other 2 commissioners, no, we won't help. I'm telling you the people that responded, stepped forward, and have said we will. There are 13 legislators that represent some part of Berks County. There are 4 that are actively helping right now: Senator Argyle, Senator Schwank, Representative Calderone, and Senator Mensch. The others we've not heard from. I'm not being critical of them. I'm just simply letting you know. And if your senator or representative is one of those 4, please call them and contact them anyhow. That still will help reinforce that we need them to step up. Yes.
Carol Gardecki here.
Yes.
I don't understand, if you sell the nursing home to a private nonprofit, don't they also have to depend on the Medicaid reimbursements? Or how can they do a better job than we're doing? They're not going to have any more money than we have.
There's 2 reasons they're able to do a better job, I shouldn't say a better job, but better financial situation. One, they get a different rate as a nonprofit. And as we've been told, we have to be completely separate if that happens. We can't appoint people, if there's an advisory board or anything, we can't have anything to do with it. So we've been told that the rate is better. The second thing is, and it does come in to the impact on not wages, but benefits. If you look at our union, we have a great group of people, and anybody that knows the Berksheim, our employees, SEIU is the union that represents the CNAs and the RNs. They do a great job. Wages, they're right in there with what everybody else is getting in the private sector. Where they have something that the private sector doesn't have is a defined benefit pension. Now, our county pension is fully funded, 100% funded, but we are bound by the county code. We have been asking for years to be able to switch to a defined contribution pension, but the legislature won't change the law. Defined benefit pension. That pension impacts the operating cost. Not nearly to the extent that the Medicaid rate does, I want to emphasize that. I've told everyone, we've looked at the numbers. If the Medicaid rate was where it needed to be, the pension wouldn't be the issue. But the combined additional money that they get as a nonprofit and the savings on the pension, they're able to make it. If they weren't, they wouldn't be buying. And a nonprofit, as a rule, it puts their money back into the facility, where a for-profit facility takes a certain percentage of the revenue and returns it to investors.
Christian, I just want to support what you said about people who don't belong in jail or prison. I do counseling of inmates at Berks County Jail. I've already spoken, I've counseled people who were sitting in Berks County Jail for parking meter violations. I don't think that people belong in there.
You are exactly right. John Adams is a good district attorney. John and our public defender, when they find out about some of these cases that go often through your MDJs, they jump to get them out of there as quickly as possible for two reasons. When you put somebody in there for parking violations or scofflaws, you're putting them in many cases, with some violent criminals. And guess who rubs off on the other? It's the bad apple policy. The bad apples rub off on the good, not the other way around. They should never be in there. Yes, John.
So two more questions.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner. Here's the problem. You have people that are found not guilty by reason of insanity, and they're sent to Wernersville. But you have other people that are not competent. They are made competent because they're put on medication. As soon as they are sentenced and released, they go back out in the community where they go off their medication, and they end up right back where they are. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I have to defend these people. The DA's office is paid by the county to prosecute these people for criminal activities. Who is there available to file civil commitment papers to take them out of that system and put them where they need to be? My view would be, perhaps you should get together with the president judge and maybe expand the roles of the guardian ad litem to the ordinance court, and see if you can't get some of these people appointed to these folks that are up in jail that have this perpetual problem, and see if they can't file the civil commitment papers. I will tell you, I had one guy who was diagnosed by a psychiatrist, and all the psychiatrists would say, long, long time, far, far away. He had maxed out on the psychotropics. So I pulled a little shenanigans with the DA, and the DA stepped out of his role and filed civil commitment papers, and I went in and did my show for the court, and he ended up in Wernersville right where he belonged. I shouldn't have to do that, and the DA's office shouldn't have to do it either. We should actually have people dedicated to doing that through, I think, the guardian system.
Yeah, just so you know, and John, thank you for sharing that. There is a nationwide and statewide organized effort among counties. County commissioners are driving this to work to resolve as much of this as we can at the county level by working with our judges, working with our district attorneys, working with our public defenders on the mental health issue. We've gotten tired of waiting for the federal government and the state government to get their act together. Just to add two things, there's two directions you can go on commitment. One is criminally insane, and that's Norristown. Right now, there are 140 people in county jails in Pennsylvania on a waiting list for a bed to go to Norristown. And that is after the legislature added 50 more beds. A year ago, it was 250 people. A year ago, it took 6 months before a person criminally insane could get a bed in Norristown. The other is Wernersville. That's not for the criminally insane. It's only slightly easier. It is a major, major problem, and it's a big part of the population of county jail. Next question. This isn't Rod Miller asking the last question, is it?
One more question from Mr. Miller.
How much time do we have?
Wait a minute, you held the mic for everyone else, and you're going to let Rod Miller hold the mic?
No. Christian, just tell me where I'm wrong. I'm under the impression that the prison, we have more guards than we really need. Union situations would ever bring that upon us, that some of them are doing busy work just because they're hired. If that handful is too many, and we build a separate prison and make it more efficient, that we need even less guards because of the efficiency, I'm looking maybe a half a dozen or so in one prison, too many, and still another half a dozen in a more efficient prison, less. We're looking at perhaps $2 million a year in salaries and benefits alone.
That's a very good question, Rod. That was a question I asked last year before we got the Kimball report. And I worked with our prison and budget office and HR department for several months, and in late August or early September, we went through 2 separate meetings. One, we simply looked at the mental health staffing, exactly the ratios, why they're staffed the way they are, and then we looked on the second meeting at the general prison population. I'm convinced we're not overstaffed. The union, believe it or not, the union has no ability to dictate to us staffing. We determine through our board what is the appropriate staffing level. On third shift, and I probably will get this, I'm going to guess on this number. In the unit, the 1992 unit, 96 or 100. There's one, in that third shift, there's one guard guarding over 100 inmates on the third shift, one. If you look at the way we're set up, and it's not unsafe, the Kimball came in and they said, you're understaffed. A couple of the national folks looked at it and said, we're understaffed. But we have something no other jail in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has, and it's called the SOG. It's the Special Operations Group. It's a group of about 12 to 13 corrections officers who volunteer to be on this group. They don't get extra pay, and they are a rapid response unit. If there is an issue, they are armed with shotguns, with non-lethal rounds. They have other equipment, including tasers. They are able to respond immediately. I've seen the security video of them responding. The second thing they've done, we have one of the best rates on workman's comp claims of any county in the Commonwealth. In fact, EHD is coming to an upcoming commissioners meeting, is going to share about that. One of the reasons is our jail, and it's the SOG group. Prior to the SOG group, when you had to do a cell extraction, and a cell extraction is where, and I didn't know anything about this when I became a commissioner. I've learned a lot. You have somebody in the cell, they may be acting up, acting out, they may be legitimately out of their mind. The way you did a cell extraction, 5, 6, 7 guards would go into that cell and take that person down. Somebody was injured almost every time. And those claims, whether it's an inmate or an employee, come back on the county. The SOG, and I've seen the SOG operate. The SOG does cell extractions without touching the individual until they are on the floor, face down, with their hands behind their back. I don't know the last time we had an injury with the cell extraction. The SOG team has been invaluable, and L.R. Kimball said, we've never seen a SOG team before, but we believe that's probably how you're able to operate with as few corrections officers as you have. The union doesn't think we have enough. The union has told us from time to time 20 to 40 more corrections officers, and we said no. Oh, we have one more.
So we have time for one more quick question from Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Who gave you water?
Yes.
And a quick answer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there are numerous
nursing homes in the county.
Yes.
Now, they all have beds, I'm sure that they have for Medicaid, am I right?
Some, but not many.
Do they get the same rate?
It varies.
Why?
I can't explain that. The same reason I shared that chart with you on the county homes, I can't explain that, even though I've had it explained to me. I still didn't understand why the great variation. So let me close with this. I have some personal experience with the nursing home challenges. Probably the most important part of the Berks time is the Essex Commons. How many of you know what the Essex Commons is at the Berks time? There you go. That's where folks with dementia and Alzheimer's are taken care of. A number of years ago, my mother-in-law lived with us for many years up until the township. Her husband died in 1991, and probably the last 10 years of her life she lived with us. All that she had was in her bedroom on our second floor. Like many folks, I didn't know anything. My wife didn't know anything about dementia or Alzheimer's, and she started to have issues. Ron and Phyllis knew her, Mary knew her. We didn't know what was going on. The doctor told us she has sundowners. I'd never heard of that before, but I began to realize she was very confused at night. Eventually she fell. She broke her hip. She had to have surgery. And as often happens with people with onset dementia, she went into full-blown dementia. And my wife gets the credit. She's the one that had to go around the county trying to find a place for her. She couldn't find one until finally the Laurel Center took her, even though the Laurel Center wasn't really set up for that. She was there for a couple of months and they said, we can't take care of her anymore. You've got to find a place that can take her. Medicaid's all that she had. We could not find one Medicaid bed in Berks County. We took her to the Providence House in Pottsville, which was specialized in dementia, Alzheimer's. And incidentally, just so you know, commissioners don't have any special pool at the Berks time. My wife applied for a room at the Berks time at the very beginning, and there was no room available. She was at the Providence House for several months, and they finally called and said, we had to send her up to Ashland Hospital, to the mental health unit. We cannot take care of her any longer. You need to find another place. My wife went up by herself to Ashland Hospital, and I remember she called me. She didn't know what to do. She said, this place is horrible, and I apologize if anybody's here related to Ashland Hospital. It no longer is open. She said, I've got to get her out of here. She called behind, and a bed had opened up. She ended up going to the Heim in the Essex Commons, and several months later she passed away, and it was the only place that was able to take care of her. As she told the people there on a regular basis, they needed to do what she told them to do because her son owned the Berks home. I got razzed with that every time we went to see her, but I understand firsthand how hard it is to find a bed, a Medicaid bed, and especially, it is especially difficult when you're dealing with the dementia and Alzheimer's area. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do in addition to everything else. There are a lot of decisions I have to make. This is a tough year. This is the toughest year I've faced as a commissioner. I'd ask you to pray for me, that God would give me wisdom to make good and right decisions. And two, I want to hear from you. You can call, but it's much easier for me to respond. I can respond more quickly if you have access to email your thoughts. Mary keeps track of all of them. I try to respond to everybody. But if you have thoughts on our tax structure, if you have thoughts on the jail, if you have thoughts on the Heim, I want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on anything else, I'd like to hear from you, just not Rod Miller. No, I'm kidding. So thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Folks, as you heard, there are very important decisions that need to be made. Please do your research. Any information you have, contact the Commissioner. Any information you can feed him as well, please do so. We're just about ready to wrap it up. A couple of quick notes here. First of all, I don't know about you people, but some of us, we want to do everything we can to change Governor Wolf's name. We want to change his name to former Governor Wolf, okay? Let's see if we can get on that team. Also, quickly, we cannot lose, us GOP, we cannot lose the U.S. House or Senate. Do you hear all that's happening in the D.C. hearings, the revelations that are coming out through there? It shows you truly that we do have a swamp and an underground government. If we would lose even one of those hearings will be shut down, and we lose all that information. One other thing I just put here together, folks, we all need to move together towards November and fight together for our state and for our country. We're going to close with prayer by Linda.
Father, we give thanks that you have allowed us to work together and serve you during this meeting. We ask your blessing upon our endeavors and upon all present today. May your love and grace continue to guide us in everything that we do today and in the future. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
2 years old, and who's going to be speaking. You cannot believe what his presentation is going to be. You do not want to miss it. Thank you very much. Safe drive home.